retention records, 5-year retention record period. Each of the railroads shall retain the following for at least 5 years after each of the calendar year which they relate. The Form FRA 6.8098 railroad employee injury or illness record. The Form FRA 6.80-107 alternate record of the illness claimed to be work-related. 3 monthly list of injury to illness is required by the statute 21525. The Form FRA 6.80-150 highway used the inquiry form. 2-year retention upon each of the railroads shall retain the following for at least 2 years after which of the end of the calendar years to which they are related. Form FRA 6.8097 initial rail equipment accident incident report record required in the statute 225 the employee human factor attachment. The Form 6.8081 employee human factor attachment required in the statute 22512 with the being of the receipt of the railroad. 3. The written oath of the employee required in the statute 22512 with the Part 1 form of the FRA 6.8078 note of the railroad employee involved with the rail equipment accident incident attributed to the employee human factor employee statement and supplemental railroad accident report that had been received by the railroad. Alright, for the employment statement of the supplemental railroad accident, the reports described in statute 22512 with the G with the Part 2 with the Form 6.8078, the note for the railroad employee involved with the railroad equipment accident incident and attributed to the employee human factor employee statement and supplementing the railroad accident report that has been received with the railroad. Each of the railroad must retain the duplicate of each of the submitted the FRA form 22521, statute 22521 for the least 2 years after the calendar year with which it relates. Each of the railroads shall retain the original hard copy of each of the complete with the signed form FRA 6.8055, the railroad injury and illness summary with the railroad submit for the FRA to the optical media CD electronic via the internet and the AI reports of the FRA safety net for the at least 5 years after the calendar year which they relate the railroad ops are submitted with the report with the FRA electronically. In order, the railroad must retain the hard copy of the printout of the FRA electronically and knowledge of the receipt with the railroad's submission for the account period of 5 years after the calendar years to report the acknowledgement of the related. D. Records maintaining accidents incident required with the paragraphs A and B with the section with the hard copy of the form and the electronic form after October 31st, 2011. The accidents incident records pertaining to the railroads required with the paragraph A and B of the section and hard copy of the form and the electronic format are subject to the following system requirements. 1. Design requirements. Any electronic record keeping the system with the U of the retaining the record required to be retained by this part shall meet the following designing parameters. The electronic record shall be designed for the integrity of each of the record retained through the appropriate levels of security, such as recognition, electronic signature, or other means within equal identified to initiate the person author of the record. No term person shall have the same electronic identity. The electronic system shall have the ensure that each of the record cannot be modified with the replacement. The record is submitted to the FRA. An amendment of the record shall be electronically stored apart from the record it amends. Each amendment that is recorded shall uniquely identify the person making the amendment and the date the amendment was made. Electronic system shall be provided with the maintenance of the reports originally submitted to the FRA without the corruption and loss of data. Policy procedure must be in place to prevent the person with the altering electronic record without otherwise interfacing the electronic system. Accessibility, availability, any electronic record you create, maintain, transfer the record required to maintain by this part shall meet the following access availability parameters. Paper copy of the electronic record amendments for those records that may be necessary for the document compliant with the part that is provided by the representative of the FRA or with the state agency participating with investigate or surveillance activity under the Part 212 of the chapter with any authorized representative for the inspection of the photocopying upon the request for the accordance with the statute 22535. 2. Paper copies provided with the FRA with the state agency participating in investigating with the surveillance activity during Part 212 of the chapter. Unauthorized representative with the produce of the readable text for the format. All kind of data shall be identified with the narrative description, accidents, incident number, the number of the date, away from the work with the date of the occurrence. 22529 penalties. Any person acting with any of the type of the covered in Title 1 U.S. Standard Code 1, including but not limited to the following: the railroad manager and supervisor, official, other employees, agent with the railroad, any owner, manufacturer, leaser, or lessor for the railroad equipment, track facilities, independent contractor providing with the goods and services to the railroad, and employees such as the owner, the manufacturer, leaser, or loaner, independent contractor who violates any of the requirement parts of the cause of the violation. Any such requirement is subject to the civil penalty of at least $650, no more than $25,000 per violation. Except for that, the penalties may be assessed against the individuals only for the willful violation, where the grossly negligent parent with a repeated violation with a pattern with the repeated violations has created imminent hazard to death of injury to the personnel of the cause of the death and injury of the personnel. Penalty not exceed $105,000 per violation may be assessed. Each day of the violation continues to shall constitute a separate offense. See Appendix A to this part of the same agency civil the penalty policy. A person may also be subject to criminals and any penalties provided in Title 49 U.S. Standard Code 213311. Alright, 25 to 31 investigation. If the policy of the FRA is to investigate the rail transportation incident with the incident result with the death of the railroad employee with the injury of the 5 or the more persons, other incident that are investigated with the superior of the investigators with the substantial serve of the promotional railroad safety, the FRA representative that are authorized to investigate accident incident that has been issued with the credentials authorizing to inspect the railroad with the records of the property. They are authorized to obtain all the relevant information concerning the accident incident under the investigation and make inquiries of the person having knowledge of the facts and conduct interviews, inquiries, attending to of an observing hearing conducted by railroads. When necessary to carry out the investigation, the FRA may authorize the issuing of the subpoenas required for the production of the records giving them the testimony. Whenever necessary, the FRA will schedule a public hearing before an authorized hearing officer with the testimony will be taken under the oath. A record may be made and an opportunity provided with the question of the witness. D. When necessary for the conduct of the investigation, the FRA Railroad Administration requires autopsies of the other tests for the remains of the railroad employee who died as a result of the accident incident. The information obtained through the FRA accident incident may be published in public reports for the other purposes of the FRA deems to appropriate. Section 2903 of the Title 49 United States Code provides no part of the report of the accident investigation under the Section 20902 of the Title 49 U.S. Standard Code may be admitted for the evidence used for any for the purpose of any suit with action damages growing out any manner of the mention of the accident investigation report. 225.33 Internal control plans. Each of the railroads shall adopt and comply with a written internal control plan that is maintained by the office of the railroad. Reporting officers conduct his or her official business. Each of the railroads should amend it in its internal control plan as necessary, reflecting significant changes to the railroad internal to reporting process procedure. The internal control plan shall be designed to maintain absolute accuracy and shall include at a minimum each of the following components. 1. A policy stating and declaring that the railroad's commitment to complete with the accuracy reporting with all the accidents, incidents, injuries, and occupational illnesses arising from the operation of the railroad with full compliance with the letter of the superior of the FRA's accident reporting regulations to the principle of the absolute term of the harassment and intimidation of any of the person calculated to discourage the prevent such person from the receiving proper medical treatment from the reporting of such accident, injury, illness will not be permitted but tolerated with the result in some stated of the discipline action against the employee or the supervisor, manager, officer of the railroad committing such harassment and intimidation. 2. The dissemination of the policy statement, the complaint procedure for each of the railroads shall provide to all the employees, supervisor, personnel, managers, the commitment policy statement described in paragraph A1. Each of the railroads shall have the procedure process complaint for each of the person about the policy statement in paragraph A1 being violated to impose the appropriate prescribed disciplinary action on each of the employees, supervisor, manager, officer of the railroad found to have the violation of the policy. These procedures shall be disclosed to the railroad employees. Such supervisors, managers, officers of the railroad should provide a whistleblower with protection of any person subject to this policy. Such policy shall be disclosed to the railroad employees, supervisor management. 3. The copy of the internal forms and or description of the internal computer with the reporting system used for the collecting of the internal record of the accident with the incident information, the description of the internal procedure of the use for the railroad for the processing of the forms and other computerized data regarding the accident incident information, the description of the internal review procedures applicable to the accident incident information collected for the reports prepared by the railroad safety claims, the medical and or other departments engaged in collecting and reporting accident incident information, the description of the internal procedure for the using and collecting cost of the data for the completing cost with respect to the accident information. 7. The description and applicable to the internal procedure for ensuring the adequate communication between the railroad department responsible for submitting the accident incident report for the FRA to any other department within the railroad responsible for collecting with the railroad receiving the process for the reporting accident incident. And the same with the applicable to the processor providing with the updating of the accident incident information prior to the reporting to the FRA. The same and applicable to the procedure providing with the FRA with the accident incident with the information specified in the FRA guide with preparing accident incident reports. Alright, a statement that specifies the name and the title of the railroad officer who is responsible for auditing the performance of the reporting function with a statement of the frequency not less than once per calendar year within which of the audits will conduct an identification of the site with whether the most recent audit report may be found in inspection and photocopy the 10.1, the briefing, the description of the railroad organization, and including the identification of all the components for the regularly of the possession information pertaining to the preparation of the reports under this part, medical claims, legal departments operating the mechanical track and structure departments, payroll, accounting, personal departments, the title of each of the railroad reporting officers, the title of each of the managers of such a component by the component, officers who the manager of such components are responsible for the component. 3. 2. A current organization chart with the satisfy the paragraphs A1 to A10, 1, B, C, and D of this section. 11. Came for the form FRA X 180 107 and alternative railroad designated form statement that specify the name, title, addresses over the custodian and these records, all the supporting documentation such as the medical records where the documents are located, and B is reserved. Statute 22535, access to records and reports. Each railroad subject to this part may have at least one location identifying each of the location where any of the representative of the Federal Road Administration, state agency, participation, investigation, surveillance activities under Part 212 of the chapter, any other authorized representative has centralized access to the copy of any of the record report required for the part of the examination for the photocopying in a reasonable manner during the normal business hours. Each railroad subject to this part will also provide any representative of the Federal Road Administration, state agency, participating investigation, any surveillance or activities under Part 212 of the chapter, any other authorized representative of the relevant medical or claims records examination of the photocopying in a reasonable manner during normal business hours shall the representative of the display proper the credentials when requested. Each of the railroads shall identify the location where the copy of the record report required under this part is accessible for the inspection photocopying by maintaining a list of such establishment location over the office where the railroad reporting officer conducts his her official business. A copy of any of the record required under this part will be accessible within 4 business hours after the request. The FRA Form 6180-107 alternate railroad design for the need of the not to be provided any of the railroad establishment within 4 hours of the request rather than Form 6180-107. The alternate railroad design form must be provided upon request within 5 business days. May be kept in a central location, either paper with electronic format. The FRA will not assess a monetary penalty against the railroad for failure to provide requested documentation with the circumstances outside of the railroad control precluded from fulfilling the 4 business hours. The time limit of the railroad has been made. Responsible effort to correct the problem should be the railroad assert with a legal privilege in respect with a certain claim of the medical records failure to provide the FRA access if such records will not constitute the violation of the end of the section. The FRA retains the right to issue the subpoena to obtain such records under Title 49 U.S. Standard Code 20107, 20902, and 209 and Statute 2097A and Title and 22531B of this title, and the railroad may contest that subpoena. Or Statute 22537, optical media transfer electronic submission. Railroad has the option of submitting the following reports updated for the amendments of the way of the optical media of the CD-ROM, means the electronic submission of the Internet Railway Equipment Accident Incident Report Form 618054 and Railroad Injury and Illness Form 618055. The Railroad Injury and Illness Summary Continuation Sheet for the Form 618055A of the Highway Railway Crossing Accident Incident Report Form FRA 618056. 57. Employee human factor attachment with the form FRA 618081. Employment human factor attachment may be in PDF or JPEG format only. Each railway utilizing optical media option shall submit the FRA with a computerized CD-ROM containing the following electronic image of the completed signal hard copy of the Railroad Injury Illness Summary with the Form 618055 in PDF or JPEG format only. Completed accident incident with reporting submission. Each of the railroad utilizing the electronic submission via the Internet operation shall submit the format and FRA AI reports of the FRA safety net, electronic image of the completed signed hard copy of the Railroad Injury Illness Summary with the Form 618055 in PDF or JPEG format only. The accident incident report submission with the FRA will provide into the railroad electronic note acknowledging the receipt of the submission filled with electronic value of the Internet. Each railroad employing either the optical media with electronic submission with the VIA with the Internet operation submit with the monthly report data with it. Reports identify the paragraph A with this section year-to-date filed with the format describing the FRA guide. The railroad choosing the optical media electronic submission via the Internet may either approve the format specified in the companion guide. The FRA will reject the submission that did not adhere to the required for the formats, which may result in the issuance of one or more civil penalties assessment against the railroad for failing to provide a timely submission for the required reports required in Statute 22511. 2539, FRA policy on covered data. The FRA will not include covered data as defined in Statute 225.5 of the periodic summaries data of the number of the occupational injuries and illnesses. 2541, suicide data. FRA does not include suicide data as defined in Statute 225.5 of the periodic summary for the data of the number of the injuries, illnesses associated with the railroad operation. The FRA will maintain suicide data, but the database is not publicly accessible. Suicide data will not be available on the FRA website for the individual's report on download. Suicide data will be available on the public aggregated format on the FRA's website with a view of the request under the form under the Freedom of Information Act. Appendix Part A to schedule civil penalties. Failure failure to comply with the consolidated reporting requirements is 25 to 5,000. Failure to report 25,000 to 5,000. Failure to immediately report 1,000 to 2,000. Failure to accurately report 1,000 to 2,000. 225 to 22511. Failure to report accident incident 25,000 to 5,000. Highway grade crossing railway equipment death and injury occupational illness. Report is incomplete 1,000 to 2,000. Failure to railroad employee human factor 2,500 to 5,000. Failure to railroad employee human factor correction. Employee identified 2,500 to 5,000. Non-employee identified 1,000 to 2,000. Failure not to employ failure to notify employee properly 2,500 to 5,000. And notification employee and all the rest. Appendix B. Part 2B, Part 225 procedure to determine the reporting threshold. Wage data issued for the calculation are collected with the railroads by Surface Transportation Board on Form A to the STB, Surface Transportation Board's wage statistics rail equipment data of the U.S. Department of Labor, the Bureau of the Labor Statistics Lab stat, receipt of the required reports used for the calculation. These equations are used to adjust the reporting threshold. The only line has two components: the average of hours of the center. Certain railroad maintenance employee for the report with the Surface Transportation Board with the Class 1 railroads of the Amtrak and overall railway company cost index determine the Bureau of Labor statistics of the wage component is weighted by 40% with the equipment component with the 60%. The wage component component with the average without the Form A Standard Transportation Board wage statistic group number 300 maintenance for the way structure group number 400 maintenance for the equipment store of the employees is due the form the equipment component with the lab stat series report procedure price index and series WPU 144 railroad equipment is used. In the month of October, secondary recorded wages that obtained with the Surface Transportation Board, the equipment of the consideration of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, railroad equipment indecisive for the second quarter was obtained with the equipment index of the reported monthly rather than quarterly with the average month of the April, May, and June that's used in the thresholds. These wages reported in terms of the dollars earned per year, while the equipment of the cost of data is indexed on the base year of the 1982. Period adjusting the reporting with the threshold is shown in the formula below. The wage component appears in the fractional change relative with the higher where the equipment component is difference by the two percentages must be divided by 100 to at present in the inconsistent fractional format. After performing calculation with the result is around the nearest $100. While weighting result for the use of the standard surface transportation wage data of the Bureau of Labor Statistics equipment cost data produces reasonable estimation of the reporting threshold with the calculated using the threshold formula immediately before the calendar year of 2006 formula with the assumed damage repair cost at levels or near the threshold where split approximately even between the labor and materials. 8. The format. New threshold equals prior threshold times 1 plus 0.4 by the W new and the W prior divided by W prior plus 0.6 plus the N unity prior. Where W new is new average hours wage rate and W prior the prior average hours wage rate. E new is new equipment average PPI weight value. E prior equipment average PPI value. And that completes the reading of 220 FRA Title 49 CFR Part 225 Railroad Accident Incident Reports for Classification Investigations.